Hi everyone, I'm GREYMOND. Today I'm recording part 2 of the Q&A. This is Q&A for members only. If you would like to become a member, you can click the join button and please ask your question below this video. I will answer in the upcoming video tomorrow. So first question is, hi Ali, I've been working on OCD recovery for a while now. I have religious PUREO type of OCD. After feeling much better for a while, recently it started to feel like all the thoughts are coming back, all the anxiety is coming back. It's getting hard to disregard and to do recovery work. Please help. So you need to, from a mindful position, not from an obsessive position, but from a mindful position, figure out where you are feeding the thoughts and why all of a sudden the thoughts came back. So maybe this situation with being stuck indoors, lifestyle changes triggered you, or just brought more stress into your life. Maybe it's something else. Maybe any change generally triggers people with OCD. So that could be the reason why you kind of got into it. Maybe just something triggered you and you started to run with it. So first, I want you to figure out what's happening. If you're under stress, try to reduce stress if possible, but full recovery is being able to deal with stress and not getting back into OCD. But right now, I want you to reduce stress just for the process of the recovery, right? To get back on track. Now, second of all, I want you to really think of where you are feeding the thoughts. So are you avoiding something? Are you doing compulsions? How much time are you spending on ruminating? So all these things you need to be tracking every single day. Because if we don't have the data to say, well, how much are you ruminating? How many compulsions are you doing? And if you're not reducing it, then it's not magically going to go away, right? It's going to take work. And I always say this, and I'm telling you, this is so true, that if full recovery is 100%, by doing less, 1% less each and every single day, in 100 days, you'll recover. Just 1%. So that means 99% you're doing the same as the previous day in terms of 99% rumination or compulsions. Just 1% better than the previous day. And little by little, pull yourself out of it. I don't think you're in a position where you need to go by 1%. That's more for people who are having extreme OCD. But still, even at this slow of a rate, you'll still get there. So examine what it is that you're avoiding, where you're doing compulsions, where you're ruminating, and start actively just saying, you know what, I accept, like say, you can use acceptance technique, you can use disregarding technique, right? For some things, disregarding works better, for some acceptance works better. So you want to say, okay, I'm choosing to accept, I'm choosing to disregard. What I'm choosing not to do is to ruminate. I'm not going to be figuring things out anymore. And you have to put your foot down with this before it kind of gets deeper in. It could be a lot of people right now are just feeling stressed out because life is changing so rapidly for a lot of people, and it's triggering them back into OCD. But again, it's all this means is that you were never really fully recovered. You were just much better, but now you have to finish the process. Next question is, still hard for me to do the disregard properly because when I do it, the thoughts come stronger, like if I'm pushing away from them. Should I disregard my attention with something when the thoughts come? Or how can I do this properly? I'm confused about this. So when you are disregarding, expect the thoughts to come in. So just because you are choosing to disregard, it's exactly what you're saying. The brain on autopilot, on rapid fire, will send you more thoughts in order to try to pull you back to OCD. I see this every single time. So it's kind of like as soon as you start to fight against your brain will for sure fight back. And you have to be strong and you have to stay on track, stand on point, and not give in. The pummeling stage, this rapid fire stage will eventually stop, but it's gonna you're giving your brain all you've got, and it's giving you all it's got, and sometimes it's these little battles, right? But you have to win the war, right? It's completely normal. You just have to be more focused. If it's certain times of the day that OCD gets you more, be prepared. So, okay, for example, if you know you get more OCD in the morning, that you know that as soon as you wake up, you won't, sometimes, because I had obviously OCD, I know that you don't even open your eyes and you get OCD thoughts, right? So open your eyes right away. Don't lay there with your eyes closed and ruminate. Open your eyes right away, get out of bed, start doing things, right? So you have a plan of how you're going to handle the times when OCD is really bad. So, and again, the goal of all of this is to reduce rumination and reduce compulsions. Next question is it normal to have false memory about something that just happened? And is it normal to have few false memories in a split second? Both make the previous false memory even more real. It feels very, very, very real. Yes, it's normal. That's how false memory is. That's why, perfectly rational people fall for this false memory stuff, right? And take it seriously and pay attention to it and try to figure it out. It's because of how real it feels. It feels real for everyone, and it can be from a split second ago, from a long time ago. I actually see it, I would say, with clients about 50-50. Some people have it split second, and like you're saying, one after another, or it could be kind of from a little while ago or a long while ago. But I mean, all of it doesn't matter. It feels real every time. Choose to disregard. And the more you ruminate, the more it starts to feel like it makes sense in your mind. So again, choose not to ruminate. Another thing with false memory is a lot of the times you start to ruminate and you attach things, right? So something that you didn't even think of in the first moment, in the second moment starts to, so maybe you thought about it at first as a thought, and 2 seconds later it feels like a memory, or even right away it feels like a memory, because you're starting to ruminate. You can't allow yourself to ruminate, because that's exactly what happens. So I want you to take a chance. It will feel, you're not actually taking a chance, but it will feel to you like you're taking a chance. Take a chance and choose to disregard the false memory. Like if it's harm related, for example, just say, you know what? If they arrest me, they arrest me. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going around and around anymore. Just take a chance. You won't be wrong by taking a chance. I promise you won't be wrong. But it's with false memory, the more you ruminate, just like with any other type of OCD, the more you ruminate, the worse it will get. So you just got to be brave and just refuse. I'm telling you, I see false memory with clients all the time. Not once has it ever been true. In over 10 years of me helping people with OCD recovery, not once has it been ever true. But it feels real every single time. Extremely real. Like 10 out of 10 real, So that's classic false memory. You just have to be brave and push through and basically behave as if it's not real, even though you feel like you want to solve it, because you're doing the right thing by refusing reaction. Next question is dreams. I think in the past I have heard you say that the person recovers, that their OCD theme can come into their dreams. Is that true? I ask because I had a very upsetting ROCD themed dream last night. I woke myself up by shouting in my sleep. Very odd. For a few minutes I found myself ruminating over the dream, but then stopped and realized that that this was a positive. I didn't, for some reason it's cutting out. Just a second. Sorry, it's cutting out my window here. I didn't like what happened in the dream, so more proof that OCD lies and tells you the opposite of what you are. Anyways, OCD recovery and dreams. Please discuss. Okay, OCD recovery and dreams. Yeah, I did a video on it a while ago. I still stand by everything I said, that OCD can come in dreams really at any time, but especially 90% of the time, no, okay, let's say 80% of the time, I see it coming in dreams when the person is actually starting to really push through on recovery work and starting to either push through on recovery work or starting to feel better. So it could be when they first started to push through, but maybe not even started to to see the benefits of pushing through, right? So it could be in that in-between stage, or they're already feeling better and the brain is basically scrambling to find any way to basically to attach and to get you back into fear. So classic, just classic OCD. Yeah, though and you're right how you're taking it. It's actually a very good thing. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it's actually a very good thing as long as you don't fall for it, and as long as you don't take the bait. Next question is, hi Ali, thanks for all your videos. I've come across them recently and they have been really helpful to me. I'm happy to help. I have never actually been diagnosed with OCD, but I believe I have it, and I was hoping you might be able to shed some light on it for me. When you talk about ERP, I'm not sure how to go about that, as I don't seem to have any particular triggers. I could have 10 conversations with people in a day, and then suddenly, for no reason, I would have sudden urges to repeat one of those conversations over and over in my head. This could last ages. So that urge for you to repeat the conversation is the trigger, or you thinking back to the conversation, or like your mind just having a thought like, oh, you should repeat it. Basically, that's the trigger. That's the it's kind of a trigger, it's more of an exposure, to be the correct way. So the exposure and response prevention. The exposure is you thinking, I have to think back to this conversation, and response prevention is choosing not to do that. Another example, I could be reading a book or a passage of text and all of a sudden have an urge to repeat some of the words or sentences over and over again. So that urge to repeat, to go over, that's the trigger, that's the exposure. Well, technically, you reading the passage is the trigger, and the exposure would be to just read it once and not read it again, right? So exposure, response, prevention. I feel like I want to do this again. I'm choosing not to do it. Another example, I could be watching Netflix, a program that is 30 minutes long. It could take me 45 minutes to watch as I get urges to replay certain parts. Again, choose not to replay. Something from the past may pop up and I get urges then to ruminate or to play out scenarios in my head. Same goes for future thoughts. Yeah, so again, same goes. From your videos, I'm guessing this is OCD. It's classic OCD. I was wondering what to do if I have no particular triggers to expose myself to. It just seems to hit me at any time for any reason. So with this, those situations are your exposures. So, what we're talking about here is on-purpose exposures, like controlled exposures, versus accidental exposures. The way I look at it, and I think that this is a big reason why a lot of people have trouble recovering with classical recovery methods, just regular psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist that doesn't know much about OCD as a specialty, is because at best, you will do exposures with this person in the office. Sometimes that doesn't even apply to a lot of people, like in your situation, because they just hit you throughout the day, right? But what are you doing? So you did exposures, say on-purpose exposures, whatever they are. You did them for, say, an hour in the day. What did you do for the rest of the day? Did you just ruminate? Did you do compulsions for the rest of the day? Because if you did those things, then you're very much going backwards rather than forward, because you did the right thing only for an hour and the wrong thing for the rest of the hours, right? So that's why I know that the right way to do ERP is to primarily focus on things that are triggering you all day, which for you would be this. And as a secondary thing, to focus on this on-purpose exposures if you have any. For some people, it's different. So guys, if you're listening and if your situation is a type of situation where you have a lot of things you're avoiding, if there's a lot of avoidance behaviors, then you kind of should do some on-purpose exposures just to stop the avoiding. And again, when we're talking about avoiding, a lot of people ask me this, we're talking about avoiding things that are normal, everyday life things that other people are doing, but you are not doing because you're afraid, right? So just to kind of clear that up. So in your situation, it's very simplistic. You're doing compulsions, you're reacting to the thoughts the wrong way. Start reacting the right way, you will start to get results. Um, I've started tracking in the last couple of weeks and trying to resist the urges good when they come up. Have you any further advice on how to go about things? Okay, so when you are tracking, just kind of to clarify, you're tracking not to get good at math or to get good at tracking, right? You're not adding up the times just for those purposes. You're tracking, so you're reducing again by just 1% less compulsions, 1% less amount of rumination throughout the day than the previous day, right? So it's kind of this game that you're constantly playing with yourself. If you see that the numbers are looking pretty good, you're on the right track, you're continuously reducing, then you can almost calculate when you will start to get to a zero. And when you get to a zero, if you say, hey, I'm not ruminating at all, I'm not doing any compulsions, then where's the OCD? Right? And the brain will let go. The thoughts will still come in every once in a while, but less and less and less because you're not feeding them. It's kind of like if you had, say, a negative experience, right? Some bad memory or something like that. After a time, it starts to fade out because you're not feeding it, right? And then it fades out completely. It stops coming into your mind at all. So it's don't feed it, reduce. You will see results. I promise you. Next question. Hi, Ali. I hope you're well. On last member Q&A about 2 weeks ago, I informed you that I had been doing ERP for ROCD, harm OCD, sarcastically agreeing with the thoughts, sitting with the anxiety, pushing through, and living parallel to the thoughts for about 2.5 months. At that point, I had gone through the pummeling phase. Okay, so again, you guys can see how OCD just goes. It's like play by numbers. It's like start to disregard, get a pummeling phase. Like had some setbacks, but mostly progressed to the point my anxiety has gone from 8 to a 4. Again, you see, guys, people are progressing, anxiety is reducing, right? So it all works, and there is hiccups along the way. And I was pretty much disregarding most thoughts. You thought I was somewhere between mid to end stage 2 of recovery. Since then, my ROCD tried to come back, but nowhere near as strong, and I pushed through. Also, my harm OCD would flash up, but again, nowhere near as strong as before, and I've been able to disregard it. I also managed to push through the symptomatic mood swings of sadness and irritation. Again, guys, I think what the person is describing here is pretty much most people's OCD recovery journey. So I just want you to pay attention to what I'm reading here, because this is just, usually you listen to me explain this to you, but this is a person just explaining how recovery goes. The one thing with OCD is if you do recovery work correctly, it works like math. The recovery process is literally copycat the same for everybody. It just depends on how much recovery work they're doing. That's all. Now my anxiety level is pretty much at 2. So so we're paying attention to the story. Person went from an 8, well, eventually I'm sure it was a 10 at some point, but from an 8 to a 2, okay? Occasionally it goes up a little. I still get the thoughts, not as constant, but sometimes they come without anxiety, and I feel more like facts, even though I know they're still untrue, which I guess is a good sign. Absolutely. So basically, so if your thoughts come in at a 2, just to kind of explain, that means you probably have about 20% of fighting left, My rumination did spike up for a few days, but now it's down to about 70% to around 1 hour per day. I've had some days where my OCD has felt like it had gone for up to 2 hours. So I guess I'm still making progress. I know my mind is still fragile. I'm not really fully recovered, but my questions are: 1, sorry, hiccup. Which stage of recovery do you think I'm at now? And 2, any more advice on how to improve my recovery work process? So, in terms of which stage, I think you are still, at the end of the second stage, third stage. But I don't want you to keep looking back, because the more you keep looking back at the thought, the more at the process of recovery, the more you're stuck in it, right? So just try to not worry so much about stages, because if you get preoccupied with OCD recovery, that could become a new theme, and I don't want you to do that. So you're at a stage where OCD and OCD recovery and all of this should be kind of somewhere in the background, and you need to start focusing on your real life post OCD. So I want you to focus as much as possible on that, and track any thought about OCD recovery as part of rumination, because you're at that stage where you really shouldn't be ruminating about it. And that's what and that gets me into the second question: how to improve recovery work process. So I would say you still need to reduce by quite a bit the amount of rumination, because it sounds like you're still ruminating a lot. Yeah, it sounds like you're still ruminating quite a bit, because 2 hours is still like 1 hour, 2 hours. That's still quite a bit, even though I understand that it's probably like 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, but it just try to cut it down. Sometimes it works well in the last stage, and this is like completely preference. So for some people it works better, for some people it doesn't. But a suggestion I would say is try to have a period of time. So say, for example, first do it for 1 hour, 2 hours, and increase that. Like say, for example, from 12 to 1, no matter what, I'm not ruminating. No matter what, right? And make sure that happens. Then from 12 to 2, right? So it's kind of like increase, and that way you have a very controlled amount of time where no matter what, you're not ruminating, because you're in the stage where I'm sure if you were focused, you would be able to at least push the thoughts off to a later period of time. So then the goal would be to say, for example, I've only had 1 hour where I could potentially ruminate, and even then I didn't ruminate the full hour, right? Because as you are delaying, refusing, the urge to ruminate reduces as well. So I think that those are some of the hints and tips at this late stage of recovery. But you're doing great, and thank you for writing this. It's important for people to see how the recovery process goes when they're in the beginning and they haven't experienced what you're experienced, right? So it's so they don't just listen to me and believe me, but there's people. I mean, it's do the work, you'll recover. That's it. Next question is the first time I had OCD was 4 years, which lasted for a good 4 to 6 months, and then the thoughts didn't bother me anymore. I then relapsed 2 years later, and my theme was on sexual OCD, mainly. Okay, I'm not gonna get into it. Then the theme became, what are you thinking about? I guess that's because I've tried to overcome the first theme I was obsessing. Then I need to stop ruminating about. And I have intrusive thoughts about stop ruminating, even though I was not ruminating about anything. Is this normal? This thinking theme became a problem again since the lockdown. What do? I have also recently been getting no sleep now. And that turned into, what if I never sleep and I can't seem to calm myself down before I go to sleep, as I focus too much on my breathing, and now I'm constantly controlling it. I think it's also slightly hyper awareness OCD. Please help out. So your OCD is basically trying to throw everything it possibly can at you, and you just have to say, okay, whatever, so what, I'm not getting into it, So doesn't matter what the topic of your OCD is, it really doesn't matter. What matters is how much you're powering up your OCD as a general thing. How much attention are you giving to your OCD? And I'm telling you, right now, it sounds like whatever OCD tells you, you're paying attention to it. Maybe not as much, because it does seem to switch, because, if you're really feeding it, it probably wouldn't even switch, but it does seem like it's shifting from topic to topic. So it does seem like you're doing recovery work, but you're still feeding it a lot. So don't be scared because it's this theme or that theme. They're all nonsense. They're all just thoughts coming in, and you have to disregard the same. Whether it's this or that does not make any difference whatsoever. You just have to push through. The more you don't give in to these thoughts, paying attention to them, the less they're gonna attack you. So I'm telling you, like, all the stuff that you're talking about, I've heard about a million times. So don't think that because it's that theme or this theme, it somehow matters. Believe me, it doesn't. These are all the questions for the part 2. I will be back with part 3 because I know I have a lot more. Thank you for watching. If you would like to ask me a question for tomorrow's part 3 Q&A, the only thing is that it is a member Q&A, so you have to have joined the member program. You can just click the join button, and it's $5 a month, so it's not anything crazy or anything like that. I will be back tomorrow. If you would like to do one-on-one recovery program with me, as always, all the information is on youhaveocd.com. You can sign up from there. You can book the appointment from there. I will see you tomorrow.